I ended up racking up 10,000, which is nothing now, but then it was quite a bit. So I literally spent every day and night, and I had that house done, remodeled in 45 days and sold. So I bought it for $10,000. I put 10,000 to it and I sold it for 45 within 3 months. And that was the first one. So that kind of kicked things off from there to where I was like, okay, let's buy some more.
Welcome to the Bricks and Banks podcast, where real estate meets real wealth. Whether you're building from the ground up or stacking your paper to the ceiling, Steph breaks down property power plays and money moves you can act on. From first-time buyers to seasoned investors, this podcast is your blueprint for financial freedom through property, investment, and business. Subscribe now. It's time to build your future. This is Bricks and Banks with Steph.
Yay! Hello, everyone. Welcome to another amazing session on the pod, Bricks and Bank with Steph. On this segment, we have Joseph Edgar, who is the founder and CEO of Loca. He is a multiple award-winning entrepreneur. He has done a lot of businesses, and he's here to share us basic insights and how to just grow in property space. He's a business mogul. I'll say you're a business mogul. So
Nice.
Joseph, let's get to meet you. Let's get a bit of your background and we'll pick it up from there.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know what to express in my background. I'm definitely not a business mogul. I'm probably more of a business
You're just
badoogle.
you're just being humble, really. You're being humble.
No, I do say I'm probably more instead of the American dream, I'm probably more like the American luck. I think I've definitely been lucky throughout my life, and so that's been very fortunate. But definitely not a business mogul.
All right. Whereabouts are you? Where were you born? You're
I'm
growing up
in Austin,
like
Texas today. It's beautiful, but I'm originally from Southern Oregon. The town is
Nice.
Chiloquin Indian reservation or Native American reservation. We said Indian when we grew up, so but now it's
Yeah.
Native American reservation.
Native American.
And
Oh, the Native Americans.
yes,
Yay.
yes, the Klamath Indian or the Klamoya Indian. Yeah, so it's beautiful out there. Lots of big mountains, white-capped mountains, lots of water, lots of popular fishing that happens out there. Not much of an economy, but a great place to, get some good air and fresh water.
Yeah. So your biggest project right now is Local, the app, and you were telling me about it. So could you just share a bit about it with the listeners?
Yeah.
See what
So
you're up
anyone
to.
who wants to check it out, it's loca.us, Loca-us. And what is the heart of Loca.us is if you look at just Austin, just the city of Austin, there are 250 multinational corporations in this geography here in Austin. And those multinationals have billion-dollar budgets and they have thousands of locations. So when they do their marketing, they reach out to anyone, anywhere. They're really searching for
Yeah.
demographics, not geographics. And what that
Yeah.
means is they don't care where you are because they have a location that can satisfy you. But in that same geography of just Austin, there's 38,000 local small businesses. And most of them
Wow.
are just one shop, small family running it. They have max 4 employees, and they are struggling to get our attention. But if you survey people, 99% of them say they want to shop local. But then
Yeah.
they leave 3 reasons why they don't shop local. They don't know what to expect. They think it's expensive, and they don't know where to find businesses because there's so many.
Yeah.
And so Loca puts it all into a nice, simple app. You can find, some small businesses will do things like, have trivia night or live music. And so you can go on there and find all the activities that are happening by local businesses. And then you can create content for them and get paid per local view. And also, instead of all these weird point apps that, for loyalty, and you got to, basically trade your dog, divide by 2, carry the 5 to figure out what their program
Trade your
is.
dog.
It is really confusing. Like there's so many. Do you know? I mean, I'm sure you have a loyalty app, right? Do you know how
Yes.
any of them work?
I do not know.
Exactly.
It's just
Exactly.
crazy.
So they're like, oh, sign up.
And it feels like they're ripping me off because I need to buy so much. I need to do so much to be able to get like a few points. So
And then,
it's
do you know what your
crazy.
points even help you to buy?
Barely anything.
Exactly. So that's the problem, is that this whole point system is so confusing. So Loca, all businesses, same rewards program, and all of it's cash. So
Wow.
100% cash, no points, no confusion. You can download it to your Venmo. You can do a direct deposit. We're adding some more solutions. So really easy. In other words, a small business can say, hey, check us out. And maybe the first
Yeah.
sandwich is on us. We'll give you $10. So you go and you say, hey, if you shop there, you get $10. It goes right to your app, right to your bank account. And then there's loyalty where they'll pay you, to come back and be a patron, or they can just try new things. And so there's lots of places to find out from locals. Businesses cannot create content on there. It's 100% has to be, local customers. So instead of UGC, we call it CGC, customer generated content. But it's really hard in today's market, because if you find a
Yeah,
local business, you want to tell the world about it. But most marketing
exactly.
is not designed to be local. So the phone and technology brought the world closer to us, but it made the world that we were in farther away. And so
I don't
that's what
really
Loca's trying to do, is put us back in our own neighborhoods. Check us out, Loca.
get it. Local.us. I'll put the link at the description so the viewers can always go there and check it out.
Appreciate it. We like to say we're crazy for small business.
That's amazing. So is this just focused in Austin, Texas, or are you spread out across globally?
Yeah, so right now we're only in Austin and
Yeah.
Portland and Eugene, Oregon. So in those 3 cities, but
Okay.
we're branching out as businesses sign up. So we have a few in Houston, we have some in Dallas, some in Waco, some in San Antonio. So there's a few spreading around. In fact,
You guys need to come to London. We
yes,
need
I
we need local in London.
definitely, we'll be all over us. In fact,
Amazing.
last year I was in Kenya, and I don't know how many
Mm.
people said like, yes, I want to start creating content. And so they can
Yeah,
create
because
content there, but it's the same problem, the globe around. It's the same problem.
yeah, because a lot of people like I want to buy a dress or I want to trade my dress for something else. And there are people around me, it's just that I don't know them. And I go on Google and Google is taking me in a
To the
different
big
city.
ones.
It's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Well,
Exactly.
Google's going to
So
take you who the highest payer is, and the highest payer are those who can afford it. And those are the
yeah, on the first
multinationals. So
page.
it's very hard to
Exactly.
find local businesses because they can't afford to get in front of your eyes. So yeah, it's tough.
So thank you for bridging that gap for us.
Right.
Hopefully you come quickly to London. We need your
Yes,
services.
we'll be there soon. Coming to a city near you, Loca.
So let's talk property. You bought your first real estate property at age 14 and co-founded a company in Brazil at 17. Like, where did you get all this inspiration? At age 14, I was what? Just going to college and
Nice. Well,
writing exams. What made
I
you,
probably should
where
have
did
been.
the
I probably should have
the
been doing
business,
that.
where did the business spark come from and why so early though?
I can't say I was precocious. I grew up in a very
Hmm.
small, very poor community. My father swung a hammer and my mother was a janitor. And they had 13 kids. So we were the labor
Wow.
force. And so I say this, it's serious, but it is kind of funny, but I eat very fast. I don't know if you've ever seen someone who eats really fast. You're probably a slow eater, but
I eat really slowly.
yes, see, I'm the opposite. I would like eat it so fast. I have to like consciously tell myself, like, okay, slow down. People are watching. Eat
So,
slow. So I have to eat slow. And it's so boring. But I grew up as one of 13, and I'm
hmm.
on the lower end of the middle. So I definitely eat very fast. And I found people who grew up in big families. We eat very fast. And I ran into someone
True.
about 6 months ago at a wedding, and he's like, I remember your family. I went over there and it blew me away. I'd sit around this family and there's like 1 million kids, and then somebody bring out a chicken, and before I looked up, things gone.
It's
And
gone.
that is basically my childhood. But I bring that up because that is really, what it was like growing up. I
Hmm.
mean, it's a very poor community. I don't think
Yeah.
of it as being entrepreneurial at all. It
Hmm.
was because we were poor. It's survival. So you're going to do whatever. Our
Like,
town did not have much in regards to, jobs. We had lots of resources in the name of fishing. We had mountains. We had a
hmm.
great place just to be wild and be a kid, but there were no jobs. And so you were always in survival mode. Like, how can I figure out how to, get this done? Or how can I find something there? So really the ambition was, we had to help my father build houses. It was just a requirement of the family. When you were young, I mean, I was like 9 and running along the top of walls to set trusses. And then, on the weekends, we'd have to go clean the church. So a lot of these skills I was fortunate enough to be taught. And so for me to find a house on the reservation that I could buy just came second nature. Like I had to figure it out. My oldest siblings were able to get a little money from my parents to go to college, but it was very clear to me that there was not going to be any left. So
Any left for you?
yeah, so if I was going to do anything, it really required to be
Well,
innovative and figure something out. So yes, I wouldn't say I'm some ambitious, um, precocious entrepreneur, more just a survival, you might say, is really all I had going for me. So
that's far from being a survivor. Like I said, you're a business mogul. You saw the opportunity and you latched on it. That's the American dream, in it.
American luck, I call
But
it,
how
right?
how did you come across the funds to be able to fund your first property?
So
That's
at the time, my parents were trying to, figure out real estate. There are all these telemarketing things happening. And so I was
uh-huh.
listening and watching a bunch of those. And
Yep.
right near where our school was on the reservation, I would have to walk by this beat up house every day. And the thing was just
Mm,
demolished and trashed. And I was like, I know I could fix that house up. So I ended up talking to the owner and I said, listen, I'll make you a deal. I wasn't old enough to own the house. So I couldn't
yeah.
I couldn't put in my name. In Oregon, to own a house, you have to be 18. I wasn't old enough. So
Okay.
after I convinced the owner, I had to then convince my parents. And so first I
Uh,
told the owner, I was like, listen, I'll make a deal with you. If
mhm.
you'll sell me this house and carry the note, I will fix it up in 90 days. And if I don't, you can keep the whole thing. Everything I fixed up in it.
Wow.
So the owner's like, okay. So they put together what is a promissory note, a land sale contract. And I then
Mm,
had to convince my parents to go and sign this, which they're like, are you crazy? What? And so my father was a little excited, but at the same time, think I'm a little nuts. And then we had a small hardware store in town. And
yeah.
I wouldn't say misled, but I don't think they knew the extent of what I was doing. And it's a small town, so everyone knows each other. And so my parents had a line of credit and, I went to them and said, hey, I'd like to, have a line of credit that I could borrow on there. And so I think they were thinking like, okay, maybe this kid's going to spend $1,000. I ended up racking up 10,000, which is nothing now, but then it was quite a bit. So I literally spent every day and night and I had that house done, remodeled in 45 days and sold. So I bought it for $10,000. I put 10,000 into it and I sold it for 45 within 3 months. And that was the first one. So that kind of kicked things off from there to where I was like, okay, let's buy some more. And then I started finding houses. It's Oregon and
Yeah.
it's a logging community. There's lots of logging,
Uh-huh.
lumberjacks. There were, I shouldn't say there's as many now, but lots of mills. And a normal house in London, it's going to be meters. I'll just have to give it in context to the US. A
Yeah.
normal
Okay.
ceiling, like this ceiling in my house here, is 10 foot, but they used to be eight
Okay.
foot ceilings. And so studs would come at 8 feet long. And any rejects were 7 feet long and they would throw them away.
Wow.
So a lot of
Okay.
people would build houses that were 7 feet high, which is just to give you a flavor. I'm 6'2". So that means there was about this much
Just a
between me
bit
and the ceiling.
before hitting the ceiling.
Yes.
So you definitely no ceiling fans in such
No ceiling
houses
fans.
because
Yes,
you're
definitely
gonna
not for
cut
me.
your head
That's what happened to my hair is the ceiling fan. I only can run so many times. And so I found a niche going
okay.
around and buying these smaller houses, literally in height. And
Hmm.
I would raise them literally and put them on a foundation and then raise the ceilings a little bit and fix them up. And that became a little niche where you could buy these. In those days, you won't believe this, but you could buy these houses for $10,000 to $20,000 and you could fix them up and they'd be worth 50 to 60. But yeah, that was really the start of it. So like I said, it's more luck than any kind of ingenuity.
I'd say it's luck still. I would say it's a lot of business acumen and bravery because you saw the opportunity, you took it. So what were your siblings' reaction when you told them like, oh, I got a house?
To be honest, many of them did the same thing. So
Okay.
I
It runs in the
yeah,
family now.
it's definitely, I think my older brother was probably the more entrepreneur. He
Hmm.
learned how to do sheetrock on his own and he kind of started a little sheetrock tape and texture business. And so,
Okay.
he definitely led the way. He led the way in Brazil as well. I really joined him when we kind of did the Brazil venture. So there's lots of
Okay.
entrepreneurs. And then I have a younger sister who followed my path. She bought one and fixed it up. And, she's a bit of an entrepreneur. So, and I have some older siblings who have now followed all that and then they've kind of done it. So I would
Done
say
it.
it's just become part of the family business, if you will, as far as the real
You're
estate.
definitely the pace
Yes.
setter. I give it to you for that. So talking about businesses, you have a business called TenantCloud. which you've grown from 20 million in revenue to 1 billion, and you say you're not a business mogul.
So I'll be
What?
clear. I wish we were doing $1 billion in revenue. It's a
Yeah.
billion in rent volume. It's doing a lot more than that now, and it's doing a lot more than 20 million in revenue. But yeah, definitely, it's grown a lot.
Definitely.
I've
And you're
stepped
not a
away.
business
I've
mogul.
stepped away from the company, but it's still growing.
Okay. So what problem are you trying to solve? And what was the biggest lesson you learned in scaling through property tech?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, rent is probably the world's second oldest business. That's a bit of a joke, not the first, but
Sure.
you always, from a cave to a dwelling. And so when if you're trying to start a business, there's really just three types of businesses. There's one, you either help somebody or a business make money, you help them save money, or you make them feel good. And like social media, lots of fashion, these
Yeah.
are feel good, right? I'm not good at that. So I helped landlords make money. And the way I did that is by helping them find a tenant and collect their rent online. And so that's really the core of the business. Was out for DIY landlords who, were really looking for a solution to, grow their own business. And if you're a landlord and you're not receiving rent, unfortunately, you're on the hook for the bill. So it's a nice, clever little business to jump in to kind of help them, bring rent online. And in this country, occupancy rates are very high because
Yeah.
we're estimated to be missing about 6.5 million dwellings. So it's a good time to be a landlord right now.
So was it like more of a FinTech enterprise?
It
What would you
became,
say?
yeah, it became that way. In
Okay.
the beginning, it was more just a fancy version of Excel. So it's a way to keep track of all your rentals, manage them, but then once you brought in the rent, it really became a fintech solution where there's so much being transacted from you're collecting rent, you're holding a deposit, and then you're paying your service professionals, you're hiring out maintenance. And so now money's just going back and forth. And at the heart of that is accounting.
Oh, amazing. So you've managed and advised funds at the state, federal level, and federal level. So how did that experience shape your entrepreneurial journey? And what do you do? What do you look for in a real estate startup investments in today's unpredictable economic landscape? And I'm talking about Donald Trump
Yes.
here.
You know, if I have to break out like what is the current
Yeah.
situation, it makes me think of a whole bunch of frat boys at a tailgate party. What I mean is maybe you don't have those in London. Here, if you have,
Sorry, I'm not hearing you a bit.
do you hear me
I
there?
think my headset's.
Do you hear me
I need
there?
to recap. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Do you hear me?
Okay. Okay, that's fine. I can hear you now.
Okay. I have an echo. So I see I was.
Is it echoing?
Yeah, mine's echoing.
Oh,
Are you echoing?
mine is fine though.
I don't know
Let me try.
why. It's very. I only know this. It might pick up on your record.
Yeah, I'll just block it out at editing stage, but let me try and
Okay.
break
Yeah,
the
definitely.
noise.
It's echo on my end. I don't know. It didn't happen until just now. Test. Yeah.
Is it better now?
Test. Nice. Perfect.
Testing.
Yep,
Perfect.
it's gone.
Okay.
All right, excellent. So, great question. Back to this, I really think of like frat boys. If you have, in the U.S., you have college frat boys. They all get together and they sit
Yeah.
outside at a tailgater and they talk about the game, right? And every single one of them is a professional coach. They critique the coach. They critique the players, and they're like, "Oh, if I did it, I would do it this way, or I would do it this way," And then after a
Yeah.
few beers, next thing you know, they're talking about like, "Hey, we should open up a bar." That's always where frat boys go. And what would be weird is, yes, everybody thinks they're a better coach and a better player than those who are actually on the field. But if those people win an election and they're now on the field, it turns into chaos. So we're now seeing policies that seem to be a whole bunch of couch coaches that are actually playing the real game, and we're watching it right in front of us. And so this makes our dynamic very strange. I think we're all kind of sitting back waiting to say, okay, what what happens from this and how does it work. But the one thing that we can't, so how things settle down, I don't know. There is a shortage in housing. And so that
Yeah.
means housing will probably not come down. Interest rates don't seem to be coming down, and the dollar is
Never.
becoming worth less. And so this isn't good for us on any of these fronts. But what is great and unique about the US and democracy is
Uh,
not efficient. And right now, there's a big push that we want efficient government. And unfortunately, the most efficient type of a government is a monarchy or a dictatorship, right? So if we look in Russia,
okay.
if you disagree with the particular person, you may find yourself falling out of a 10-story window. And here, we're fortunate we don't
Yeah.
fall out of windows. And part of that
Just
is because of the democracy. But the trade-off is that, you have inefficiency. And efficiency means a dictator can go in, he'll control all of your assets. You don't have any rights to anything. He'll use anything and everything he wants, so he can get things done very fast and efficient. Here, we have ownership, so we own stuff. So the only time the government is allowed to use public stuff, and that means their money, our tax dollars, our resources that we buy, the only time they're allowed to use that is if they're going to be accountable. And that accountability means inefficiency. And it's the nature of it. And so because everybody gets to have, accountability and a say in it. That's the nature of democracy, is that everybody gets a say in it. So because it becomes so inefficient, it definitely runs at a little higher cost, but the benefit is that that's part of the protection for us to have our own freedoms and rights. So
freedom.
for us
Yeah.
to think of our economy as a business and try to run it like a business is the wrong idea. It's never going to be as efficient as a business. It's just not. That's not the purpose of our government. Now, do we have to cut
Yeah.
spending and cut costs? Yes, 100%. We have to figure that out. So my time in Texas, I was with Governor Perry from 2008 to 12, and then under the Obama administration ran the SSBCI Fund of Funds here in Texas for venture fund. And definitely the thing that I learned in working in government is that it's, like I said, inefficient, but it can get a lot done. And so you do have
Yeah.
to respect all of those costs are there for a reason. There's lots of overhead that different programs end up going into fund. And so trying to run with an axe and a chainsaw and trying to just gut everything is probably not the most effective way to cut it. But
Yeah.
working with, House representatives to try to cut it definitely can. So yeah, that has been my lesson in anything from working in government, that it's going to be slow. It's going to be a process, but
Yeah.
that's what you want in accountability.
But realistically, does it even work? Like cutting costs, does it ever really work?
Well, right now I find it interesting that Doge is claiming to have now $400 billion in savings, but total
Uh,
government spending, if you pulled up that chart, has not changed a bit. It's
changed.
exactly where it was last year.
Exactly.
So if
Well,
we've saved 400 billion, then that should start to come down, but it hasn't, which makes me think a lot of these Doge savings aren't real. And most of them are
mhm.
old contracts. It's like Wall Street Journal found, where they're like, they find a $50 billion contract and there's only like a billion left on it, and they count the whole thing. And so it's probably closer to true that a lot of these savings aren't real. They're probably, sadly, the irony is that Doge has probably become
It's per
already an inefficient government agency, and they're already giving us
Wow.
false information. And so that's
Yeah.
probably the truth. But can you cut costs? Yes, you can cut costs. But if you really want to learn how to cut costs in the United States, well, we have some huge problems. 3.5 trillion is social programs. Those are our Social
Mm,
Security, Medicare. It's very
yeah.
difficult to cut. We're going to have to come up with some strategies if you want to do that. $1 trillion of it is interest. $1 trillion of it is other.
And
And then
interest.
you have 300 billion of it that goes to veterans. You have about
Mm,
200 billion that goes to students for loans, and that basically makes up your budget. So there's not a
exactly.
lot of wiggle room. If you really
Yeah.
want to cut it, you got to work with the house, because you're going to have to find all those places to give. But it's very important for us to do it. And until we do cut it, we probably shouldn't be having tariffs, because we need to be
Mm,
borrowing from other countries. And if they don't have American dollars to loan us, then it's not going to really work out very
it's a
well.
sticky situation.
Yes.
think at this point I would vote for you for president. So have
Nice,
to run.
nice. 5 minutes and I've got a great. I'll have the write-in ballot of one. I like it.
So what would you say is still the broken link in how we buy and sell properties and manage properties today?
There's a really interesting thing happening in the market right now. And I don't know if you've ever heard the term pocket listings. Okay,
No,
so
not really.
this is fun.
Yeah.
This is very current news. So pocket
Okay.
listings, the reason they call it pocket listings is they're like hidden in your pocket. And
Okay.
it in the United States, there's what's called the MLS. And MLS is a
Yeah.
system mostly controlled by the National Association of Realtors. And there's a lot of factions like, there's Keller Williams and Compass that push back and use it, but then also push back to fight it. And
Yeah.
these pocket listings are a listing that you have not put on the MLS system yet. It means you haven't
Okay.
told the world that it's for sale. And so why would you do that? A realtor might do that to give they could do it to drum up business in advance, get people excited. They may not say what the price is, right? So they drum it up, excitement in the neighborhood. They
Okay.
could also do it, to have more interest as pocket listings become more popular. And what I mean by that is the CEO of Compass has come out and he's advised all of their realtors, which is like, you know, thousands of realtors to
Mm.
all do pocket listings, meaning
Okay.
that they could run them on Compass's website before they're put on any other website. And what that means is they create a silo. They create
Mm.
inventory that you can't get on any other website,
Any other
right?
place?
So if you
Okay.
want to get
Yeah.
and see what's available in the market, you have to go to Compass's website. Then alternatively, Zillow has come out, which recently got bought by Rocket. And Zillow is saying, like, forget it. If you do a pocket listing, we will no longer list that property on here after it becomes formal. So they're trying to fight
Mm.
back and say, we're out, right?
Yeah.
Redfin did a deal with Zillow, so they become buddies for commercial property. So then Redfin has also followed suit and said, we also won't list any properties that you do a pocket listing on. So now there's this big fight as these companies are becoming more and more silos. And so you won't be able to see all the inventory on all of them anymore. They are becoming better at doing everything all in one. So Rocket Mortgage has bought Redfin, which means you'll be able to find a house, look at the house, check it out, make an offer,
Yeah.
and get a mortgage all in the same place. That's pretty nice, right? So you can
Nice.
do it all
Yeah.
in the same
It
place.
is.
It's convenient for the
Straight up.
consumer. Where it
Uh-huh.
hurts the consumer is that you'll only be able to do that for the houses on that website, and then you won't know what else is for sale unless you go to a different website. So
Yeah,
that's
you
where
can't compare the market's value. You
exactly.
can't compare.
So
Oh,
that's where it
yeah.
makes more work for the consumer is you're going to have to go from one website to the next website to the next website to the next website. I mean, so these companies they are basically the gatekeepers. And gatekeepers mean that if you want to find a property, like right now, if you were to go find a rental, where did you go? You probably go to a listing site, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
sometimes, yeah.
And so
Like
the
we have the big ones here in the UK, Rightmove and Zoopla.
Zoopla. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the gatekeepers. They have your eyes,
Uh-huh.
they get your attention. And if you want to get on them, then you have to play by these rules as the gatekeepers. And so same thing is happening here where those gatekeepers are now in a fight to say, okay, if you want to get on here, you have to pay us and you have to play by our rules. And so this is creating a big dynamic for every property manager everywhere. It means as you're a property manager, you can't just list it once. You have to list it on every website out there. And so
Sites.
instead of having one
And that's
cost,
so much
now
money.
you have 5
Exactly.
costs, so it's changing the
And
dynamic quite a bit.
you have to maintain all the listings concurrently.
Exactly. Yep. And that means
That's
all those leads that come through and, everything that goes on each one, taking them down, pulling them up, scheduling. That means you're going to be running on 5 different, softwares basically. So it does
and the
sound great.
consumer is gonna bear the brunt of that cost.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So it may sound amazing as a consumer because you're like, oh yeah, put it all in one place and it's real easy. But then you find out like if everybody has that, it's going to cost you more because you're going to have 5 different places you're going to have to do that. So yeah. So that's not great for consumers. It's not great for overall, but they are trying to fight these monopolies within listings. And so we'll see where that goes. But that's really what's going on right now. So it's not so much government's involvement, it's more how the market's moving as far as controlling listing inventory in real estate.
So is it just limited to the US market, or have you found it in other markets as well?
So it's mostly in the United States market, but the reason it's not in UK right now and some of the other places is because they're not big enough yet. So it'll get there.
Sure.
It'll get there.
Yeah.
But a house, the United States market, they make 6% on a sale. So NAR
Mm,
or the National Real Estate Association, NARA, did lose a class action lawsuit. And I
mm,
shouldn't say they lost, they settled the class action lawsuit, which
okay.
means they now when you sell a house here in London, I think it's 2%, right? When you sell a house, the buyer agent
Yeah,
pays.
2% tax.
So here it's
Yeah.
6%. And it's a hard 6%.
Wow.
It's really hard to press that.
Yeah,
So
it's
the
harsh.
selling agent gets 3%, the buying agent gets 3%. But then there are
3%.
all these other agents that share in that. So you have whoever gave the lead. So next thing you know, there's like 7
Yeah,
agents all getting part of that 6%. And so because there's
barely enough.
so much involved in it, it's very hard to move that. But now you have to, as a seller's agent, you have to disclose it and say, okay, do you want to pay for this or do you want to pay for it on
Mm,
top of the price? So you have to disclose it, and a lot of people think that will fix it and take away the 6%, but I don't think it will. I don't think much will change because when you're trying to sell your
yeah,
house, you want to sell it for as much as you can. And so ultimately, the
and
only way
keep
to
as
do
much
that,
money as you
right?
can.
But that means you're going to have to pay a broker. And so you'll try to do it without a broker and you'll be like, no, I won't pay that. And then you find out, well, I'm only getting one offer. Like what's going on? And then you find out those who pay an agent are going to get 20 offers. And because you'd rather have more offers because you get more, you find like, okay, well, it pays for itself, but it is a big scam. But that's why chances are it'll be 6%. And that 6% on a country that the average house sells for 420,000 is a pretty big market. So right now, most of this gatekeeping is happening in the US, but it'll go everywhere. So
So correct me if I'm wrong. You started your property investments in the Brazilian market, in it, right? Or
no,
was it in the
I'm
US?
I'm mostly in the United States. I went to
Okay.
Brazil when I was 17 for the first time. I sold out of that when I was about 22. Then I've
Okay.
been back a couple of years ago just as a holiday. But no, the last 10 years I've really been more in Ukraine. I could probably tell you about doing business in Ukraine more than anywhere. But
So how is that going considering the war?
mm.
I mean, people just found out that, oh, the market is closed. There's nothing going on there because of the war.
Yeah,
So,
there's a lot going on there. So there's definitely
okay.
a lot. And unfortunately, you I mean,
Mm,
if you look at the when the wall fell 89, there was such a thirst for knowledge that it drew so many people to learn about tech. So now if you look at all
yeah.
the satellites, in the Soviet Union, there's just
Yeah.
so much talent there in the tech world, so much talent. They have a great understanding for it. And so that's just made it a gravitational force to go there and find amazing teams that are just so talented. So what it turned out was a lot of businesses there created these outsource shops. And by outsource shops,
Okay.
I mean it's one company, but they could be running 100 different websites, and they just build for all these
Mm,
different companies. They get paid for that for an hour, and that's been a lot of what's been going on there. Myself, I don't really like those. I like to build the team within. Like if you're going to do business in another country, a story I like to tell is like Sven the bank robber. So Sven goes and robs his
yeah.
bank, and he gets busted by the sheriff. But Sven speaks this other language, so the sheriff needs an interpreter. So he gets this interpreter, and he goes down to Sven. He's like, Sven, interpreter, you tell him to tell me where he hid all the money. So,
Yeah.
Sven's like, oh, I don't know what money he's talking about. I don't know. So the interpreter tells the sheriff, he's like, he says he doesn't know what you're talking about. And,
Mm,
sheriff pulls out his gun, points it right at him, and he says, you tell Sven if he doesn't tell me where that money is right now, I'm going to shoot him. So then the interpreter is like, oh, Sven, sheriff's pretty mad. He's serious. You better tell him where the money is. So Sven's like, okay, don't shoot me. If you go down by the church, there's an oak tree. I buried it below the oak tree. Just like tell him not to shoot him. So the interpreter turns back to the sheriff and he says, Sheriff, Sven says, go ahead and shoot him. So the point of that joke is that if you're going to do business in another country, you should probably
Yeah.
go there and learn the culture. Like having it and working through a third party or an outsource shop isn't great. And so Ukraine has been somewhat crippled in that a lot of people are frightened by it to have their products being built there.
Yeah.
So they've been losing contracts, but all the talent is still there. There's a whole bunch of people who are like, listen, I can't fight on the front line, but I can fight by making sure there's an economy to come back to when we're done. And so, I built 3 companies in Ukraine. So I have Loca, part of Loca's team is there now. So I still travel there. So it's a great place. The culture is really, really amazing. They're honest people. It's a shame, this invasion. It's terrible. Kudos to, London and the UK for still supporting it. Unfortunately, I don't know what's wrong with the leadership in this country, but hopefully they get their act together. But yes, Ukraine's a great place to do business. It's different. Every country is a little different. And you have to find those differences and understand them. That's why going there is important.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you learn those differences, it's really easy to navigate, most places and really find great workers and honest people. So,
Wow, you're giving us hope for the Ukrainian landscape.
yes.
So what is your advice to investors who want to go into real estate in Ukraine right now?
I mean, if they wanted to invest in Ukraine, I would say go there. I mean, I know it sounds scary. They're like, no, I can't cross in, but I still
Exactly.
travel there, even throughout,
Mm,
this war. The West is very safe. Unfortunately, the eastern side is being pummeled, but go there, meet people. There's lots of people on LinkedIn to talk to people. They are still
yeah.
there and functioning. There's a huge economy ready to build, and there's so much talent. You'd be really shocked at the talent and how it compares to the U.S. When I first came across building a team in Ukraine, I was buying a company, and the founders were Ukrainian living in Chicago. So we went and I
Oh,
met them, talked to them, and at the time they were really strange, big tattooed guys, kind of standing like this, and had a very what I thought at the time was a very thick Russian accent. And
yeah.
I'm talking to them. They don't know who I am. They're thinking like some American trying to like buy their company. And we got to know each other. But I said, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to move all the talent to Austin. And
Mm,
so we hired a bunch of people in Austin, and I found your Ukrainian juniors were running circles around the seniors developers in Austin. So that blew my mind. And that was
mm,
2014. So I said, that's it. I have to go see what's going on. So I went there, and that's where my mind was blown. Just amazing talent, amazing people. Our culture matches. Their work ethic is by far better than most Americans. And so you'll find these people are obsessed about growing a product. They'll be there on the weekends to help you. They're going to be there at night, because the time's 8 hours difference. But
mm,
you're just going to see, believers who are passionate and ready to work and grow. Things that I kind of grew up with and became commonplace in and on
yeah.
the reservation, but I don't think it's quite the same anymore. It's hard to find that same work ethic now, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, everyone is just bogged down with self-care and depression. So
Yeah. Yes.
mental health.
Mental health has taken over the world. There's so much mental health now going on. So.
I mean, not to talk down on it because people have legit experiences, but then again, people are just so caught up with that facade of, oh, I'm going through a lot, I'm going through a lot, I don't want to. So people are not, I would say, maximizing their full potential because you're just allowing all these circumstances to limit them.
Well, it's nice that people are rich enough now to worry about their
Mm,
personal mental health.
true.
When I grew up, that was
Yes.
not something you could worry about. And if you look back on the Great Depression, like all of those people went through trauma, but they're
True.
just not they weren't wealthy enough to go talk to anyone. There was no psychiatrist. So,
It wasn't even a thing. Like, if you talk about it that you're having some mental conditions of like, oh, this one is running mad. But that's not the place. You just needed someone to speak to. And thankfully now we have more open-minded landscape and we have therapists we can speak to or even our friends. So the conversation is ongoing and it's really helpful.
yeah. I mean, I imagine we probably did have issues then, but nobody really knew about it, right? because
Yeah.
you didn't have enough time to think about it. So it's nice that people are wealthy enough and live in a society where they can
Talk
think
about
about
it
it,
now.
but man, it creates a lot of problems. It's like, oh, I just don't feel it today. I'm like, well, I'm so glad that you have such a cush job that you can think about
Yeah.
like what you're doing, because there's so
Not
many people in
fitting
this world that are like, a dollar a day still pays, and they will do anything, to put food on the
to
table.
get it.
And so that's that ambitious, hungry, and by hungry, I mean
Hmm.
work ethic that just, keeps driving them. So finding that has been very hard in this world. It's one of the reasons I am glad that we do have, somewhat a migrating population here in this country to help make up, because we have
Yeah.
a missing workforce. And so, but that workforce seems to be, somewhat ambitious to kind of do things. And so yes, I think some of those Chinese memes that have come out with, the overweight American sewing things, I think
Yeah.
some of
Yes,
those,
seen it.
I mean, how many Americans can really argue? It's like, well, that if that were to
Uh,
depict our economy, that is our economy.
to be fair,
We're
that's it.
very
Yeah.
wealthy, and we buy things that we expect that people have to work a lot harder to work. That's what a trade deficit is. We sell things at a much higher price than the time we spent to do it. That again is what a trade deficit is. So we spend less time working, they spend more time working to give us all these goods. And that is good. We should all be happy that we're running
Straight off.
trade deficits. It's sort of weird, but at the same time, it means, we're overweight and we don't work overly hard because we don't have to. We're running a trade deficit. It's like, don't mess that up.
Sure.
But it is a true depiction of probably what our economy is.
So, from building different businesses from the US into Ukraine, what would you say is the real engine behind sustainable business growth? You've been able to manage teams across different
Like
geographical locations.
building a sustainable team, you mean, or a sustainable
Yeah,
business?
sustainable team, sustainable business, they all go hand in hand,
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really a customer. I mean, are you making a customer happy? Because
Hmm.
if you make a customer happy, it will take you to the world and beyond. Always think about your customer. Your customer is the boss for everyone. Any founder and CEO should be like 100% either they are one of the customers, but talking to a customer, figuring out what the customer is doing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the heart of any and every business. If you are not a customer centric and customer focused business, you will cease to be a business eventually if you've lucked into it in shorthand. So yes, sustainability comes with having a customer, solving their problem, and making them happy so they feel justified and to continue giving you money.
Yeah, but some people have also argued that having a happy employee base would give your business time to flourish, because if the employees are happy, they'll be willing to serve your customers better.
Well,
So what's your take on that?
I mean, I think having a happy employee is
Yeah.
important. Like, sure, have employees happy, but let's just make it this way. If we're the customer, and let's
Hmm.
say right now, the service of this video call that we're doing right now, we're the customer. We
Yeah.
expect this video call to work great.
To the work,
And if
yeah.
we find out that the person who's in charge, let's say there's just one person who's supposed to make sure this video works, and they decide, I just don't feel it today. So for them to be happy, they're going to leave. Well, I mean, I'm really glad that that employee is happy. No question. But are you ever going to use them again?
Mm,
Exactly. So having a happy customer is always the most important thing. Having a good
sure.
work base is important. I think everyone wants to feel valued and everyone wants to contribute. So I think that's more of like how you maintain a culture. But the best way to do that is if everybody in the company agrees on what the most important thing is. And if everybody agrees on what the most important thing is, then they can vary on how to bring out that important thing. And the most important thing for any company should be making the customer happy. And so
Happy, yeah.
if I think you can have happy employees when you have them successfully being able to feel like the impact that they've made in the company was something that did help grow the company. And even if it's a failure. I mean, every company I've ever done, I've loved failure. Failure is good. If you're failing a lot, it means you're trying lots of things. The only way to really grow is to try new things. But they
Yeah.
have to be, again, focused on the customer. And so you definitely, if you try to build a company that is employee first, it's not really a company. It's more of like a club. So
Help a help group.
yeah, it's like a group hangout. And that's always fun too. It's fun to hang out as a
Yeah.
club, but you're
That's like
probably
you
not going to
make
have
money.
people just to pay you to go have fun. So yes.
True.
But you can definitely
Okay.
have fun celebrating the achievement of satisfying a customer.
Yeah,
Then that sounds.
definitely. So what would you say has been like your best and worst investments so far?
Man, I've
I
made
don't.
so many bad investments. I mean, nobody ever asked that, but that is probably the most fun question is
Hmm.
I've lost money in so many ways. I've made really bad investments. I've done so many weird things. In fact, when people ask me like, what's the most, key to a successful business? I always say, well, to
Yeah.
be honest, you should never listen to someone who has had success in business ever. Like, don't listen to them. They're the ones that are wrong. You should listen to all the people who have failed because the failures are going to give you a definitive thing of what didn't work. The things that do work is impossible. Like, here's how I found success. I've sold a number of businesses. We've grown Empire with thousands of rental doors, and those have been
Mm,
great. But, like I said, I lucked into it, so many parts of it, right? It's not really any
yeah.
genius of mine. And so for anybody to follow suit, it wouldn't make sense. But where I have
True.
failed is definitely something to do. I've invested in a gold mine in Mexico that went under. I invested in
Wow.
a water business. I have invested in like close to 50 startups that have gone under. Those are great tax. I say if you're an angel investor, you're a
Yeah.
philanthropist until you have an exit. So that's part of my charitable giving. Um, I've started a few companies that have gone under. I mean, many.
Mm,
We could go down. There could be a whole segment on just like things that I have failed at that
things it
have not
doesn't.
worked out. So there are many.
Yeah. What about the wins?
So
I
wins,
know.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's been some great ones. There's no question. You just need, one good one to pay for lots of
Yeah.
them.
Make up for everything. Yeah.
One that's fun to talk about in real estate that I think a lot of, I mean, yes, there's been TenantCloud, there's hundreds of millions. There's a few other ones that are very big. They're large, but
Yeah.
more fun ones I think are deals that people can actually grab onto and they could
Hold
do
on
it
to it.
and,
Yeah.
and mimic. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I was probably 18, I
Mm,
came up with this idea after learning about capital gains tax. So
okay.
capital gains tax, if I buy the property for 10,000, I put 10,000 into it and I sell it for
10%.
45, the capital gain is 25,000.
Mm,
And right now, capital gain, depending on your tax bracket, you'll pay between 10 to 12% to 25%. And if you're in a state, it could be as much as 35%, right? And so capital gains will take a big chunk out of it. So as I went through that, more I understood capital gains, and the more I was understanding compound interest and in carrying a loan, I came up with this method that I would sell a house for less than I bought it.
mm-hmm.
So I stopped fixing it up. Let's say I bought the house for 40,000. I would
Yeah.
sell it for $37,000 and I would change the interest rate and the length of the loan. So I'd charge a higher
Okay.
interest rate and I would
Yeah.
make the time of the loan 5 years longer for most of them. I mean, I'd play with it slightly different. And I would tell the person who bought it, it's like, okay, you fix up the house now. You fix it up and I'll help finance it. Cause now I had so many, it was easy for me to buy these and do them. I was a pro. I've been doing it for, 4 years at that point. And a lot of people who are trying to step into it for the first time would be like, hey, I'm trying to do my first one. So I would basically become their lender. And what that did is it allowed me to take a capital loss. So I didn't have to pay any capital gains because I took a $3,000
So
loss.
this. Yeah.
If my loan that I bought it was for 10 years, well, I
Hmm.
paid off the loan in 10 years. And then if the one I did, I'd do for 15 years and be at a higher interest rate. So I had 5 years remaining where I made 100% of the payments. And for the 10 years that overlapped, I just made a little bit on it.
It's a
But
bit. Mm,
a lot of people would, like during 2005 to 8, they were
yeah.
refinancing and paying cash. And so I'd get these $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 checks, all from houses that I sold for less than I bought. And so I got a capital gain loss, which means all of those checks didn't have any more tax to be paid. They were already paid in
Wow.
capital gains. And so that's a
That's
fun one. And another one that I think people could do now. That one's harder to do now, but
yeah,
it's
because that's
something.
like playing the long game.
It
Yeah.
is definitely playing the long game. You have to see a long-term
Yeah.
vision of an annuity. But the other thing
Definitely.
that's beneficial is you could buy real estate then. You can't
Mm-hmm.
buy it now. It's so hard.
Yeah.
And so there is still this thing in the US. I don't know about the UK, but in the US, there's a primary residency tax exemption. So
Okay.
if you're by yourself, you get 250,000 every 2 years. If you're married, you get 500,000. But if you're
Oh,
roommates, and so here's where I say is like people are living long, they're waiting to get married. So people are getting married in
hmm.
their late 30s and having kids in their late 30s now. Like it's used to be
Yeah.
early 20s, now it's much later. And so if that is the case, because houses are so much more expensive,
Yeah.
plug your nose and stomach being a partner for 2 years. So meet someone. You don't have to marry. I'm not saying get married, but even if you have 3 people come together and say, let's all be roommates, let's buy a
Okay.
house together. We're
Hmm.
going to fix it up and live in it for 2 years. And then after
Okay.
2 years, we're going to sell it. Well, that's $750,000 of profit that you don't have to pay taxes on.
Wow.
And so that's the benefit. I think the inventive thing for the future is you're going to have to come together with roommates. And what used to be able to be done with one, you can do now with
Do it
2 or 3.
3
It
people.
could be a married
Yeah.
couple doing this where they get 500,000, but houses are more expensive. And so, think through a roommate. Houses are big and people aren't having kids. So 3 single guys could do this so easy because they could be the labor, work it out, do whatever. But 3 girls could do it. I mean, I'm not trying to put together any type of relationship, but people are already
Yes.
becoming roommates, right? So they're
Hmm.
becoming
Yeah,
roommates.
it's a commonplace thing here in the UK. So
Exactly. And it has to be because it's so expensive. So
yeah.
now if you came together as roommates and you buy a house, if there are 4
Hmm.
of you that come together to buy it, that's $1 million in profit that none of you have to pay any taxes on. So, and you can do it in 2 years. That's so fast. 2 years goes by. So all I say is like, figure out a way, like, being roommates is awful, right? But you can stomach it for 2 years. Like figure out a way to,
Yes.
to get it
Yeah.
done and you just split it, all the costs, you split it. I mean, I realize it's going to be a headache to do, but 2 years isn't that long to have so
Yeah.
much of a tax benefit and such a capital gain that it's just worthwhile. So that's the one I would say right now is something someone can do to really get themselves in real estate and have yes, but you do that twice and you have paid for your
Wow.
house.
Your setup. That's amazing. Is this applicable in all states in the US
Everywhere in the
or
US, because that's an IRS code. So it means it's a federal tax exemption.
so guys, we just got a life hack.
Yeah. And
Everyone in the
even better, in most states, this
yeah.
is most states, most of all the work. Now, I'm not saying go and do your own work, but there's many people and
Yeah.
there's so much you can do on YouTube now. You can figure it out that
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the permits that are required, you can do on your
Yeah.
own if you're going to live in it for 2 years. So they actually overlap. They dovetail both those things. And so you could do a lot of places. You can do your own electrical. You can do your own plumbing.
Wow.
You do need to know what you're doing because you're going to have an inspector check it and make sure it's done right. But you have to guarantee it by living in it for 2 years. So if you were to build your own house with a group of people and they build a house, I mean, you can make a tremendous amount of money. And so there's so much opportunity and things like that, but it's going to require people coming together. So
Coming
call them
together.
partners, call them
Yeah.
friends, whatever you want. You're probably never gonna like each other after 2 years, but stomach it because there's a lot to be
I
gained.
mean, it's eye-opening because people stay together anyway, so why don't we get paid for it?
Exactly. If you're gonna be roommates anyways,
Wow.
then come together, buy something, and make a little
Get
money
paid
while you're
for
doing
it.
it. So,
Wow, this is eye-opening. This is really eye-opening. Thank you so much for sharing your wins and losses with us. So, what would you say is one principle you followed through that every real estate investor or entrepreneur should live by in their moments of winning and in their moments of losing? What's that one principle that's kept you?
the one principle I would live by, I'd say be lazy. I know that sounds weird, but that's probably the right answer. It's like,
Exactly. You're not a lazy person.
but I mean that in a hardworking way. Be lazy. I mean, the only reason I try to find
Smart.
solutions is because I'm naturally lazy. And so I'm like, if I'm a landlord, it's like, how can I figure out how to do this without having to go to talk to my tenant? How can I figure out how to do this? I'm always trying to find an easier, more lazy way to do things. So yeah, I would say stay lazy. Those ambitions are probably doing you well. Just yeah, that's all it's like I'm definitely a lazy person by design. So it's like, how can I find a nice, easy way to, get things done faster?
Thank you so much. So we're in this segment. This is called the firecracker segment. Just have one or two questions which has to be answered very quickly. Don't think too much.
Okay.
Just give it us punch it in my face. So looking back at all your businesses and ventures, what's one decision that created the biggest ripple effect for your success as an entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur, probably not.
Or yeah.
Um,
Yeah. More or
probably
less.
being lazy. That's probably back to the key. I just wanted to find a
Okay.
way I could do this easier.
The
I could do
easy
it
way out.
faster. How can I
Exactly.
find this? I don't want to do this every day. So yeah, that's my motto. Definitely find a way to be
Amazing.
lazy.
So, what's the biggest danger for entrepreneurs? Taking a risk that might fail or playing it safe and missing the shots?
You know what? When I go to Costco every year, or
Yeah.
every time I go to,
Yeah.
I don't know if you have Costco in London, but it'd be
Yeah, we
like
have
IKEA.
Costco
Okay,
here.
okay.
Yeah,
We
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 have
hate it.
Costco.
We hate it. Everybody hates going to
Oh,
Costco,
really?
but
Why?
when you go to Costco, if you find parking, it's brutal, right? You're driving all around, and it's like everybody, there's just this massive, you spend 40 minutes just in the parking lot trying
Looking
to
for
find a parking
parking.
spot. I just
Yeah.
park as far away as I can and I just walk in. And I think that says a lot about how we should probably treat entrepreneurship. Like, stop trying to
Hmm.
find a close parking spot. It doesn't really matter. It didn't save you any time or do anything. Cost you 40 minutes of driving around. Just find a spot and get started. So that's really the nuts of it.
So you've heard it, guys. Don't think too much. Just get started. And if you're gonna live with roommates, if you're gonna live with flatmates,
That's
then
right.
get paid for it. Especially if you're in the US.
Exactly.
So it's been a pleasure having Joe Edgar on the pod today. So Joe, how can we reach you? Website,
Twitter's probably
socials.
the best, or X, I should say,
Okay.
not for Xavier, but
X.
for for Twitter. But find me.
Yeah.
My handle's at Joe underscore Edgar underscore. So Joe Edgar, pretty easy to
Amazing.
find.
Yeah, I'll just put all the links in the description and the audience will be able to find you.
Perfect. So all of you
So
complaining, roommates who are reaching out to me and telling me how much they hate their roommate now, you have a place to vent.
yeah.
So
Now we have a hack. We need
yeah.
to get paid for it,
Or
guys.
they have a,
250K.
a person to go and hunt because they hate each other. So one of the two. So.
Thank you so much, Joe, for this amazing time. I learned so much. It's been an impactful session. Thank you for coming on the pod. And I'm sure we would like to have you once again
Love
to
to.
give us more insights.
Awesome. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me. I appreciate it. Talk to you later,
Yeah.
Stephanie.
And that's it, guys. Thank you for joining us for another amazing session at the Breaks and Bank Show with Steph. I remain your amazing host, Stephanie, and Ace. Bye for now.
Awesome.